Hello, everybody. Back in the days, being an A-tier comedian made you an A-tier celebrity. I mean, even Adam Sandler's XXL basketball shorts would probably get more attention than Lindsay Lohan's slimy salami slice right above her puckered, crusty, dusty, disgusting, musty meat muffin. But comedy's gone soft now, and there's only two types of comedians on the internet. Female comedian who makes jokes about her vagina, or a YouTube comedian who makes jokes about female comedians who make jokes about their vaginas. And it's a shame because so many legendary comedians have graced the box office, such as Kevin James, who makes jokes about being fatter, Chris Rock, who makes jokes about being black, or Dane Cook, who is just the worst. Jim Carrey is another example of a comedian that went to the box office, and he's considered one of the most influential comedians of all time. But I have a hot take on Jim Carrey. I don't care for him very much. I get that people like Jim Carrey, and I'm not gonna tell you that you have bad taste, but I mean, you do have bad taste. I mean, my personal favorite comedian is Daniel Tosh, and most of you probably think he's an unfunny douchebag, so I mean, it's whatever. But regardless of how I or anyone feels, there's no denying that 1994 was the year of Jim Carrey, getting major roles in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and Dumb and Dumber. And smack dab in the middle is one of the greatest atrocities known to man, The Mask. Usually when people talk about bad movies, they talk about the sequel to The Mask, Son of the Mask. But I don't think anyone remembers how bad the original Mask was. So I've decided that we're gonna talk about both of the Mask movies, and we're gonna see which one is worse. But before we get into that, smash the like button. I haven't done anything to earn a like, but you know, I'm still asking, so fuck you. Also, subscribe for sex. If you like sex, I will have sex with you. I don't care about if there's any laws that say I can't have sex with you. I'll still do it. I'm on the grind, okay? I'm balling. The movie starts and we're introduced to a disgusting hellhole called Edge City. Edge City, huh? Yeah. That's where I go whenever I, fucking jerk off. There's some scuba divers fixing some pipes, and one of the guys sees a dirty chained box and decides that that's more important than what he's being paid to do. I mean, that could be a bomb. Like, if I found a bomb at my job, I'd just walk away and pretend I wasn't the first person to find it. Bombs stress me out. And when I get stressed out, I get a tummy ache. And when I get a tummy ache, I get grumpy. And when I get grumpy, you do not want to see what happens when I get grumpy. And if those vegan jihadists succeed, it was always meant to be. I am not dying over grilled sandwiches, D'Angelo's. And you guys always treated me like I was dumb. I'm not dumb. I'm actually really smart. The scuba diver fucking dies for no reason, and the box opens, revealing a mask. Maybe I'm shooting in the dark here, but I'm pretty sure that this mask is gonna be important to the story. The movie cuts to Jim Carrey's character, Stanley Ipkiss, a bank clerk who doesn't have the best luck with women. Stanley struggles with confidence, so his friend Charlie suggests that they go to the Coco Bongo, the hottest nightclub and place to be in Edge City. While at work, Stanley meets Tina Carlisle, who shares an experience that I can only describe as what every incel thinks he deserves.
That's an interesting time, Mr.
Ipkiss. Stanley Ipkiss.
You know, it sort of looks like, a young woman riding bareback.
I would never dream of hurting a woman. God's beautiful creatures.
But Tina has hidden intentions because within her purse is a camera that's scoping out the joint. Very quickly, you see that this movie is just packed to the brim with tropes and cliches. The sexy hair shake, the slow-mo walk, the painfully obvious camera disguised as a normal object that no one notices for some reason. We find out that Tina is undercover working for her boyfriend, Dorian Tyrell, who's like a gangster or some shit. Dorian's intentions are simple: rob the bank and undermine his higher-up Nico and take control of the city as the top dog. Overall, it's a pretty good setup for a movie, I suppose. Stanley goes to the Coco Bongo with a fucked up car because the mechanic didn't have his ready, I guess. He meets up with Charlie, but he gets left behind. You see, Charlie's got a bad stroke of luck, which is demonstrated by the water that comically splashes him after his series of unfortunate events. Coincidentally enough, though, not only is Dorian there with the bouncer, but he sees Tina there as well. And he looks like a real dork when he gets in that gross, dumb car. What a loser. A Giga Chad like me drives a... Stanley's car breaks down because apparently we're still not supposed to recognize the fact that Stanley's life sucks. So of course more slapstick bullshit happens, which causes his entire car to break down. But ladies and gentlemen, you won't believe what happens next.
Hey, mister!
Why are you calling out to that thing? That is like the most unalive specimen I have ever gandered upon. But it's not a man, it's garbage. In a mask. I think I know where this movie is going. Stanley brings the mask home, and there's some bit about his landlord being a bitch, blah, 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 his life is hard. When he gets home, there's some foreshadowing about wearing masks and shit.
That's correct, Wendy. We all wear masks, metaphorically speaking.
Now, this is where we get into my problem with Jim Carrey. It seems like his entire shtick is just like 13-year-old white girl humor where you like make a face and you reference some weird shit in a goofy voice. Stanley gets curious and he puts on the mask because if he didn't, this movie wouldn't need to be a thing. Jim Carrey looks absolutely fucked here. And here's where the next problem with this movie begins. Whenever Stanley is wearing the mask, he just acts like an old school cartoon character. Like all those cliches where the eyes are popping out of your head and you get flattened like a pancake and you float to the surface like a piece of paper. And we've already seen a few cliches in a very short amount of time. So I've decided for the rest of the movie, we're gonna play a good old game of bingo, where I predict everything that will happen in this movie. Now, I will take a simple bingo, but I really do hope that I get all of these because it would be weird if I didn't. We're gonna start fresh, okay? So none of the options that we've already seen are gonna be on here, but we do have other ones such as waving a white flag to admit defeat, jaw drops inhumanly low to the nearest surface, and my personal favorite, racism. After Stanley damages his apartment building, he decides to take a stroll through the town.
Hey, mister! You got the time?
What are these people? Are these supposed to be bad guys? I don't think people like this actually existed. Like, just punks showing up out of nowhere and like threatening to beat you up for no reason. So Stanley runs away only to stop running immediately and do another useless bit. Anyways, he decides that he's a superhero now. So the first thing he does is go to the mechanic and attack innocent people who didn't do anything illegal. The next day he wakes up confused. He figures it was just a dream, but after he discovers the damage outside of his apartment, he realizes it was all real.
What's that bump?
I want a proctologist standing by.
Jesus Christ, he sodomized them. So they didn't have his car ready in time to go to the Coco Bongos, so he's just like, okay, yeah, I'll shove something up your ass then. Am I supposed to root for Stanley? Anyways, Stanley goes to work and he's like, oh, my pussy hurts. I miss that girl I talked to for 5 minutes.
You think she'll ever come back, Charlie?
Oh, man, forget her. Stanley, listen to me. A girl like that is always looking for the BBD.
Big black dick.
The bigger, better deal.
I knew that's what it was. We're then introduced to Peggy Brandt, who's a news reporter.
Peggy Brandt of Ask Peggy?
You printed one of my letters last year. Remember? Nice guys finish last.
Oh my god, he is literally an incel.
Do you realize how much mail we got about that letter? I mean, there are literally hundreds of women out there looking for a guy just like you.
I'm not even being hyperbolic. This is an incel fantasy. Only instead of posting to Reddit about being an incel, he wrote a letter to the newspaper instead, which manages to be way more pathetic yet equally unrealistic. Peggy is investigating what happened at the mechanic shop because, you know, what Stanley did was illegal. He doesn't talk about anything, but he does get Peggy's number. We're then introduced to Nico.
Hello, Dorian.
Huh?
Thanks for dropping by.
What?
I get things like that.
I don't know what the fuck this guy is saying. I'm assuming he's scary, though. Stanley, in the dead of night, decides to put the mask on again, even though the last time he put the mask on, he destroyed his apartment building and is now being investigated by the police. Uh-oh. Oh, shit. A white butterfly to signify the lack of funds. Man, bingo makes everything better. I wish they had us play bingo in school when they taught us about like the internment camps and stuff. It would have been awesome. Stanley wants to go to the Coco Bongo, but since he doesn't have any money, he goes to the bank he works at and robs it, which coincidentally, Dorian's goons are trying to rob at the same time. Man, we are blowing through bingo right now, a comically large bag of money. Then we see Stanley pull up to the Coco Bongo in style.
Are you on the list?
No. But I believe my friends are. Perhaps you know them. Franklin, Grant, and Jackson.
Oh my god. Okay, look, I just have to say it. Jim Carrey is objectively, like, not really funny at all. Like, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy some of Jim Carrey's movies. Like, I really enjoyed Bruce Almighty. I felt like the goofy mannerisms made a lot more sense for that movie. And even, like, The Truman Show, I think is a really fantastic movie. But I feel like a lot of the times when Jim Carrey is in movies and he makes jokes, they're not even jokes. They're just like, oh, look at my weird face. Oh, look at the weird way I'm moving my arms. And look at the way I'm talking. I'm fucking weird, right? Like I said, it's pretty much just what white teenage girls do when they try to be funny. We see even more cartoon tropes, and I start to wonder why this movie even needs to exist. It seems like the most notable thing about the movie is that the animations and special effects seem pretty good for the time, but this movie isn't being made so you can look at special effects. This movie is made to make you laugh because it's a comedy movie, but it seems like the only jokes are old school cartoon references and Jim Carrey acting weird, so I feel like it misses the mark. But hey, at least that last scene got us some more boxes checked for bingo. I just realized I used freezing in place and getting frozen in place in 2 separate boxes. You know, if it happens once, I'll check it once. If it happens twice, I'll check it twice, okay? That's the rules. We then see a dancing scene that doesn't fucking matter at all, and they kiss before being interrupted by a gunshot. Dorian knows that Stanley was the one who hit the bank first, so he's trying to collect the money back. After making a bunch of useless pop culture references that don't make me laugh, Stanley makes his great escape, and the police show up and bust Dorian and his goons.
So you got a warrant this time?
What do you mean, a warrant? They don't need a warrant. You're shooting guns happens in a nightclub, okay? And nothing good can come from that. Trust me, okay? You shoot up one nightclub and now you're homophobic and now you have to go to prison. During the shootout, Stanley left a piece of his pajamas at the nightclub, which the detective recognized from the last time he spoke with Stanley, making him a prime suspect not only for the bank robbing, but, you know, the whole sodomy thing. Stanley goes to work, blah fucking blah, his boss is mad, he's late, who cares? Tina shows up and she pretty much implies that she wants to fuck the green guy. It seems like she knows that Stanley is the green guy, but I have no clue what would make her think that. So Stanley goes to meet her at the park, but as himself, only to immediately change his mind and put the mask on.
Kiss me, my dear, and I will reveal my croissant.
Oh, fuck. I forgot to put the rapey French character on the bingo card. The cops show up and Stanley makes more unfunny and outdated pop culture references before escaping. But then he's quickly stopped by an unnecessary amount of police.
Hit it!
Oh shit, let's go. That's so racist. Bingo! Stanley manages to not get shot by the police, even though I really wish he did. This goes on for way too long, by the way. It's not funny at all. Like, this dance routine goes on for 3 minutes. Dancing isn't funny. This is so fucking stupid. Stanley runs away after wasting her time and takes his mask off. And right at the nick of time, Peggy drives by to pick him up. Peggy brings Stanley to safety and we think everything's good, but then we get the biggest plot twist of the entire movie. Peggy is working for Dorian.
You got the 50 thou?
Did she just say 50 thou? What planet are we on? Dorian finds out that Stanley got those powers by putting on the mask, so he decides to put the mask on himself. And when he puts it on, there's like purple clouds, which I don't know why they're there. I guess it's because he's evil or something. Also, his face is fucked. Like, why does he look so much different than Stanley? Also, this movie at no point has ever explained anything about the mask. Like, I just know that it's here and it does things, which is like a terrible way to keep me invested. They go to Stanley's apartment and get the money from his closet, and then they immediately turn him into the police. Stanley goes to jail, and eventually Tina comes to meet him, and apparently still wants to fuck him.
Thanks.
For what?
Lots of things. For being the only guy who treated me like a person and not some sort of party favor.
Treated you like a person? What the fuck are you talking about? Cameron Diaz's character so far has served no purpose aside from being the hot trophy girlfriend that Stanley's trying to get. She has absolutely no definable or notable personality traits, and the only reason that Stanley likes her is because she's hot. Tina leaves and then immediately gets chased. So then there's this scene that takes way too long where Stanley gets his dog, who somehow found Stanley, and he has his dog like fetch the keys and bring them back to him. You ever just look at old pictures and videos of dogs from like a long time ago and you're just like, damn, that dog is dead. Like, did you think about that? The dog from this movie is dead right now. It's kind of fucked up. Tina eventually gets kidnapped by Dorian. Stanley escapes the prison and holds the detective hostage, which normally I'd say is a bad idea, but I mean, fuck it. He's already arrested. Like, what are they gonna do? Throw him in jail? Dorian goes to the Coco Bongo with the mask on and he kills Nico. And you may be surprised to know that I was not emotionally moved by the scene where the Goblin Man spits bullets at the character that I had no reason to like. Stanley shows up to the club. Meanwhile, Tina is being held hostage by Dorian and he also has a bomb. I don't know why any of this is happening. Tina asks Dorian for a kiss to trick him into taking his mask off, and while they kiss, she kicks the mask out from his hands. Stanley's dog Milo catches it and puts the mask on. Anyways, long story short, they save the day and beat Dorian. Dorian gets arrested and Stanley doesn't. Stanley gets the girl and everything's good. The end. I guess the moral of the story is you shouldn't hide behind masks. You should always be yourself. Which is a sentiment that I do agree with, but the problem is that if Stanley had never put on the mask in the first place, his life would be objectively shittier. I mean, the only reason he has a girlfriend right now is because he put on the mask, and I think that was like his main problem. I'm not even sure, to be honest. So not only is the movie unfunny and boring, but the message it's trying to convey is cannibalized by the main conflict of the story, which makes the entire existence of the movie completely pointless. I'll give this movie 4 out of 10 D'Angelo's grilled sandwiches. It wasn't painful to watch, but all it really did is remind me how overrated Jim Carrey is. I mean, I feel like Jim Carrey is really good at like doing what he's supposed to do for roles, which is being the goofy weird guy, but being good at something that isn't enjoyable, like isn't worth celebrating, like that's kind of like being good at taking a shit. It's like, okay, you shit pretty good, but I don't know why I should care about it. Anyways, for some reason, after seeing the lukewarm response to the first Mask movie, they're like, we should make another one, but without the super famous guy. Son of the Mask was released in 2005, otherwise known as the year that people stopped putting new metal in all their movie trailers. This movie featured a star-studded lineup of absolutely nobody. But before we get into it, smash the fucking like button, okay? I'm sure you already did because you listened to me the first time. You're a good little boy, aren't you? But just in case, make sure it's double smash, okay? The movie starts in a museum, and we're actually told what the mask is and why it's a thing. The story goes that Loki, the god of mischief, is the owner of the mask. Loki is the son of Odin, who's pretty much like Allah for white people. And the mask is Loki's tool for destruction and mischief. Loki is in the museum looking for the mask, and he's dressed exactly how I would dress if I wanted everyone to know that I'm undercover.
Loki was the only one who could shapeshift, change his form, even turn himself into a woman.
A woman? Man alive, lock up your sons and daughters around that twisted piece of fruitcake, hey, dog?
Oh, buddy, you just crossed a big fucking line. There will be no transphobia on my TV screen. Will somebody find where this guy lives and ruin his life? Anyways, Loki's Fifi's got a boo-boo and he got grumpy, so he manifested some lightning because that's what angry people do when they're mad. He grabs onto the mask, but he finds out that it's fake.
Let me replace it.
What are you doing?
Okay, I want to stop for a second and just be honest. So far, like 3 minutes into the second movie, which everyone hates, and I enjoy it way more than any part of the first movie. It has actual world building, it's telling me what the mask is, and even though I didn't laugh, there were enough neurons firing in my brain for me to actually recognize the floating face bit as a joke. Anyways, Loki escapes, continuing his quest to retrieve his mask. Then we cut to the mask floating down the river, only to be picked up by a new dog. We're introduced to Tim and Tanya Avery, a young married couple coming to terms that their existence is useless unless Tim starts splattering some sticky splooge in Tanya's hot, hairy ham hole. You got hit in the balls. That's hilarious. I wouldn't want to be that guy, am I right, fellas? My balls would really hurt. They have an argument in the car, and it's the same cliche where the wife wants kids and the husband doesn't. As they come home, their dog Otis brings the mask inside, and he shows it to Tim. Apparently, this is Odin. Odin wants Loki to find his mask because he's stirring up a bunch of shit for no reason. He's pissed off about it. And Loki is kind of the problem child of the family, so he wants to impress his dad and not be a fuck up, so he's trying to get it back.
But I also really want to have a baby.
Is this not a conversation that you guys had already? You guys are married, right? Why is this even an argument? I feel like before you get married, you normally are like, hey, what about them kids? Anyways, the next day, Tim's at work, and I guess he's a mascot tour guide thing. I don't fucking know. He's a turtle. Anyways, Tim has to go to a costume party, and after his last costume was ruined, he decides he'll just wear the mask to the party. And so far, this movie seems literally just like the first one. Only somehow the mask, or whatever the fuck you're supposed to call this thing, is way more terrifying. But it gets worse because it's literally the same thing, where all of a sudden he's super confident and he's the life of the party. And it's the same bits, too, where it's like, look, he's acting like Elvis, and now he's acting like a cowboy. Anyways, Tim goes home after the party and...
Hey, what's gotten into you?
Let's find out.
She has sex with him. His voice is completely different and his face is green. If she can't tell the difference between his voice and can't see the green face, that means that literally anyone could just walk into her bedroom and fuck her. Anyways, apparently he jizzed in her because afterwards we're treated to a scene where 3 green sperms travel through Tanya's meat pocket to fertilize her eggs. Anyways, the next day, Tim goes to work and everyone there is like, yeah, Tim, you were fucking awesome. Which I don't understand because how could you possibly know that that was him? They look nothing alike. He goes to talk to his boss and apparently he thinks that whatever the fuck happened at that party was actually an elaborate pitch for a character. So Tim gets a promotion and gets the opportunity to pitch a cartoon to the studio he works at. Tim goes home that same day and somehow immediately Tanya already feels pregnant even though it's been less than 24 hours and symptoms usually show up like a week or 2 after conception. And then there's this long montage where they're like pregnant and the baby's doing all this weird shit in the womb. And now their son Alvey is born. Loki is still looking for the mask in different areas. So Odin takes over the shopkeep and yells at him and tells him that a child has been born of the mask and that to find the mask he needs to find the child. I think. I don't even know, to be honest. So Loki breaks into a hospital to find the birthing records for that day, which seems like so much work considering that Odin could probably just fucking tell him where it is. Anyways, Tanya informs Tim that she has to go on a business trip and so he'll have to take care of the baby all by himself.
My wife's got to go out of town for work. It's just a week. But I have to take care of the baby.
The network called. They want to see our green guy thing by the end of the week.
What does he mean? See the green guy thing? Hasn't it been like 9 months? Did he get this promotion and do fuck all for 9 months? Tanya leaves and it's a disaster. What the fuck? That is literally the reverbed and bass boosted fart sound effect from the memes. My already broken immersion in this movie has completely shattered. The baby talks.
Mother.
Which is jarring, I guess. I mean, I don't even know at this point. This movie is completely fucked and so are my standards. Loki is still looking for the baby, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, Otis, their dog, is getting jealous of the baby because he gets all the attention, so he pretty much wants to kill it, I guess. So he puts on the mask, and much like all the other characters that have put on the mask at this point, becomes an absolute abomination. Meanwhile, Alvey's watching cartoons, and I guess he hates Tim. I don't think they give a good reason for this, but I guess he just does. So he sees that cartoon with the dancing frog and how the frog got the dude locked up for acting crazy, so he pretty much develops this gaslighting plan where he does wacky shit in front of Tim and then acts normal whenever somebody else is around. Tim obviously loses his shit and goes to his neighbor to ask for help, which doesn't work because he sounds fucking deranged. And then we have another useless bit to remind us that Loki's in this movie. Next up, Otis tries to trap Alvey, which leads to this Tom and Jerry dynamic thing where they try to kill each other. But Otis's attempts at murdering the newborn would put an average pit bull to shame, so he gets back to work with a new plan. A plan that involves tar and feathers. And this is where the movie just turns into a fever dream of old school cartoon tropes and references. Like, I could just watch Tom and Jerry. This doesn't need to exist. Anyways, Loki shows up, but he doesn't suspect the kid, but then I guess he does suspect the kid because he sees the kid fucking throw up green vomit. I guess that's suspicious. So then he follows them, and then he chases them, and then he tries to kill them, but the baby saves the day. And then right when he's about to try and kill them again, Odin takes over Tim and takes away Loki's immortality. Which is weird because Loki is on the cusp of finding the mask and the baby is literally right there, so that's just so dumb. Anyway, Tim gets a call and now he has to pitch the cartoon at the worst time possible.
This is Tim Avery. He created the character, so why don't I just let him tell you more about it? Tim?
Okay, so I'm trying to imagine if this situation wasn't a total dumpster fire, how it would actually work. And I'm realizing that this was always meant to be a dumpster fire. Like, what is Tim actually supposed to be pitching right now? Even if I consider the personality traits of the original mask and the new one, he throws parties and he's goofy. Like, is that the character? There's nothing to pitch. He's just green. And of course he bombs because realistically he has nothing to work with and gets fired. Anyways, there's like this montage with copyrighted music, but apparently the baby likes Tim now. I don't know why he didn't like him in the first place, but that's cool, I guess. Otis puts the mask back on and I really don't know why, but I'm kind of already done asking questions about this shit. Loki breaks into Alvey's room and begs Odin to give him just one more hour. So Odin gives him his powers back and the first thing he does is turn Betty into a nose. Loki rocket blasts away with Alvey, telling Tim that if he wants Alvey back, he has to get him the mask as soon as possible. Tanya comes home, so of course Tim does what any good husband would do in a situation like this, and beats the shit out of her. Anyways, he tells her that Alvey is missing and that Loki stole him, and she obviously thinks he's crazy, so he's like, hey, look, the nose lady, see? This is weird, and she's like, yeah, this is pretty weird, maybe you're right. Earlier, Tim saw Otis wearing the mask, so he goes to find Otis to get the mask back, but I guess Otis is busy trying to get his dick wet. Otis feels neglected by Tim, but after some convincing, he decides to give Tim the mask back. Meanwhile, Loki begins to build rapport with Alvey by playing some games.
Fight.
This is so fucked. Tim and Tanya show up to give Loki the mask, but Loki decides that he wants to keep the baby because, I don't know, I guess the movie can't end here for some reason. Otis bites him in the ball sack and he drops the mask. Tim goes to catch it and it lands on his face, and yeah, he becomes that guy that's green again. Does she want to fuck him?
Honey, you look hot.
Oh my god. She wants to fuck him. Why do women in comedy movies just have absolutely no standards? Loki runs away, so Tim just manifests a car out of nowhere. How does that even happen? Like, at this point, I'm not even confused how the car manifested out of nowhere. I'm just more confused how the writers of this script were like, yeah, that's good enough for the final cut. Skipping past a bunch of useless driving scenes, they find Loki in a boxing arena. And they have a boxing match while Tanya saves Alvey.
Oh yeah? Well, jump like a grasshopper. Stink like a skunk!
I mean, this shit's still better than Creator Clash.
This is a waste of time. We're evenly matched opponents. I think we should let the kid decide.
Why, that's a swell idea.
No, that is a terrible idea. Why are they wagering the kid when they have all of the leverage? They have Alvey and the mask, so why don't they just give him the mask and tell him to fuck off? Like, that's all he needs. He doesn't need the kid. He just wanted him because he's a dick.
Alvey?
Yeah, that's right. Tim?
Son?
And he's losing the kid for no reason. Oh, he's taking off the mask, and taking off the mask allows him to be himself. This movie is making me a better man. Fuck, I'm so done with this fucking movie, okay? It's pretty much over. Odin comes down to Loki and gives him the business, and he's about to banish him, but Tim's a nice guy, and he's like, no, and so he doesn't, and that's it. Also, Tim gets his job back because he pitched a really good idea for a show where his son and his dog are fighting for his affection, which honestly isn't a bad idea considering— what the fuck is this? Why the fuck is this a shot in the movie? Like, I've had a few girlfriends that I was very close with, and I don't think we ever did whatever the fuck this is. Like, they're probably on ayahuasca or something, but this is just so weird. And that's the end. Wow, that was a thing that I experienced. So you may be curious, which movie's better? Well, imagine if I told you that you had to pick between eating a pile of shit and eating a pile of vomit. You'd just be like, fucking, I don't know, pick for me, I guess. It's gross either way. But you know, I gotta give the edge to the sequel. The animation is better. The jokes, while not funny, shine through better. The mask seems like an actual plot device rather than just a dog shit analogy for being yourself. Not to mention the mask is actually explained and the world building is better. And best of all, it has an excuse to be dog shit, and it's actually dog shit in a way where it's so bad that it's good, as opposed to the mask, which is just bad and boring, and there's nothing like horrible about it that makes me enjoy watching it. I think people who say they prefer the original mask are just drowning in nostalgia, because both of them suck. Both of them are really bad, but I really hate it when people like overrate and underrate shit. So let's just stop pretending that the mask is good. Also, I couldn't think of like a joke to end on the script. Like I was trying to think of something and I just couldn't, so subscribe.